basically we had a club meeting yesterday, and so all members were able to partake in that. And so today we're doing a live stream. We're going to talk about that. We're going to do Q&A, and anyone who is a subscriber can chat. There is slow mode on, so you can send a message every 2 minutes so we're not getting spammed. And YouTube released a new feature in the last couple weeks, basically, that I was only made aware of, and that is that we can now limit chat to subscribers. So we're going to test that out a little bit, and that just means that it's a free thing. You hit the subscribe button, you'll get notifications when we go live, you'll get notifications when we put out videos, all that kind of stuff, but it'll help cut down the riffraff, and that was a lot of the problems we were having in the past was extra just spam and porn links and things like that that made the moderators have to do a lot of work. And so yeah, and super chats are back on for this because the super chats kind of always superseded the members chat, and luckily, well, I guess luckily, we're a big enough member based channel and things like that that we were able to have a meeting with YouTube this week. In fact, the head of YouTube memberships and 2 project managers for YouTube memberships. So I was able to give some feedback and features I feel that we're really missing. I learned about some features that hopefully will be coming to our channel and just all channels in general. I can't talk about them because we had to sign an NDA for that, but just know that I'm plugged in pretty hard into YouTube and memberships, and things hopefully will continue to improve. So yesterday we did have our first ever club meeting, and I realized some of the feedback was like, well, why couldn't this have been pre-recorded? How is this different? And the reality is it wasn't that different than a pre-recorded video, but it was the first one that we did, and we didn't want to make things too complicated. And so my main goal here was very good video and audio quality, and I think we did that really well. There was a few little internet lag pieces where just between the two, Zenzo and the speaker and YouTube, every once in a while you get a little video delay from Gian and a little bit of voice pixelation every once in a while, and I'm not sure we can honestly overcome that long term, because even if we were paying for it, not every location for every speaker is going to have good internet available. Zenzo's actively seeking even better internet, which he's got good internet. It's great internet. It's the fastest they have available, but getting everyone at the same page and then not just having any traffic interruptions on the internet between the two, I think it went as well as an online meeting can go. Now, we had some snafus that we didn't know were going to happen. We did lots of test runs and things like that, and when you test run with a speaker, they go, yeah, you can see my presentation, great. You can hear me, great, right? But no one actually went through the presentation, and so she noticed, and we noticed, that her cursor that's actually would be on the screen couldn't be seen. And so instead of trying to remedy that on the fly and disrupting everything, we're going to look into it and see if that's a possibility with the software we're using. We were using different software than we're using right now to do something like that, so that we can have, every set of software has different features and ease of usability. And we wanted, the important part was to put Gian, who spoke, by the way, on betta breeding, both wild and domestic types, in the driver's seat, so that she could move the slides back and forth and show some things and go back and answer questions and things like that. And so if we were, we can use other software, we would control it, and maybe you've seen that in some online clubs that you've been a part of where, someone has to ask for the next slide or something like that. And, I definitely saw a lot of presentations over COVID, and my biggest takeaway was always, wish they could have gotten better audio and video going, and it was a little bit clunky, and so we wanted to kind of set the standard, and I think we have. And I wasn't sure how long the meeting was going to go. That was something we hadn't really predetermined. There's cadence for 2-hour meetings like we have right now, right? We do this for 2 hours. A local club meeting a lot of times is 45 minutes plus maybe 10 to 15 minute Q&A. And so we kind of just let it roll, because I think the biggest component of these talks is the information. We're paying a speaker, we're sending out equipment, we're doing these things, and the biggest component was how can they deliver a presentation that's meaningful, that will, kind of stand up to the test of time. You can go back as a reference point. I don't expect anyone, myself included, to be like, no, I picked up all the gene mapping and XX chromosome, YY chromosome. I think it's meant to be more of a reference piece, and that's what I've always wished for when I see really good talks where you absorb as much as you can. You get one or two good things out of a presentation in person usually, and then you would kind of love to have access to that material again at some point. And I can hear myself talking, and that's driving me nuts. Oh, it's right here. And so, yeah, I do think it's a piece that people will go back to time and time again. You'll have to be a member to do that. And over time, imagine you join this club 2 years from now, and there's 24 professional level speakers there to catch up on. And someone pointed out, like, oh, I think I'm going to have some people that will join the membership just because they want to see this beta presentation. That is a great benefit to this as well. But that's not the main goal. The main goal is to hopefully get people excited and learning. And a lot of people say, well, I'm not really into betas, but I'm not into betas, but there are other aspects to apply to my guppy hobby or just my fish keeping in general. And what I will say is Jeanne is a professional in that she is a teacher, right? A biology teacher. She teaches essentially 5 times a week, and she's able to keep an audience engaged. And in my opinion, she was teaching some very heavy stuff in the science world, but topical enough so that my pea brain can understand it, and maybe I could even move some of that forward in some of the stuff that I talk about, and I can always go back and reference it. And so I guess what I was trying to say is she's very good at what she does. I've known her for, I guess, a long time now, and not every speaker is going to be a professional teacher. Yes, we have people from universities, we have scientists, we have people from all around the world. But one of the reasons we chose her is she was local to Zenzo, which made it really easy. If anything was technically going wrong, we could source that and solve it real time. And then also just knowing that part of it is we do want actual academics and things like that. And I know her background. And originally I met Jeanne, actually. She just came into our store because she lived near Edmonds, Washington, where our retail store is. And so I got to see her. If you were in the part of the club thing there, you saw that her breeding projects kind of started in, I believe, 2012, right? 2012, 2013. We opened in 2013. And so while she was getting into it and looking at betas and hanging out with her grandfather, and they were really getting into it and going to the show, she could still come into the store and she would buy tanks and supplies and betas and things like that. And so we grew that kind of relationship over years. And she started a YouTube channel. She's got the website and all that. Now she's, I think she was in high school at the time, and now she's moved all the way through grad school and, has her own life in San Francisco. And so, yeah, I thought it was a good starter presentation to kind of set a bar and go, this is what we're looking for, this is what we're paying, this is what you guys can expect. I don't expect every talk to be that good, especially, halfway around the world. What's the internet connection like? What's the time zone difference? Do they teach professionally? But I also thought there was a lot of things we could do better. And that was, getting that cursor going, interacting with the audience a little bit more. She did a great job. She was very skilled in that she could be giving the presentation and watching chat and chiming in from thing to thing here. But I do think there could be some more time left for kind of general chat Q&A. We did have questions pre-sourced, and I thought that part actually went really well. So on the forum, we asked for what was some questions you wanted to ask. Zenzo picked some. It allowed her to prep for them, get pictures, things like that would enhance that. They're also, to the why live question, I think live adds a lot of magic or trustworthiness to a video. It's one thing to read Wikipedia and read it into a camera and have it be prepared. It's another thing to be able to do it on the fly and have the little, oh, I thought that slide was next. Oh, I thought this. And a lot of times when someone's telling something live, you get that extra story. You get the, oh, that was funny. You get a genuine laugh, reaction, all of those things. When you're recording to just a camera, a lot of people won't think, but there's going to be thousands of people that watch this. And so it's very deadpan, where when they can see the interaction and the person can get the vibe of like, oh, they are enjoying this. Look at that. They enjoyed this. They thought that was funny. All of that is a good feedback loop for a speaker, and I think that is actually very important. And so, there are some technicalities that we're having problems with, and I already have, so I didn't even have my microphone on today because I was sending emails to YouTube going, I'm not sure why this happened and if this is intended or a mistake, but as it stands right now, no one can see the chat from the stream yesterday. And I spent the whole stream myself trying to answer questions. It was a very good opportunity if you were a member to kind of get in there and ask me a question about anything, right? And I could, it was more like, if you've ever been to a club meeting, you can sit and talk with people and whisper and try not to be disruptive, but you can, get a lot of stuff talked about and enjoy the presentation. And I think that was the good venue for that. But unfortunately, the chat, which had links to websites and different stuff that she was doing, is not available. So I'm asking, like, is that because it's membership only and it can't show? But I really think that's an oversight, and I do believe that at the very minimum, it should be that members can see the chat, if not everyone. And so, my goal is to make it sustainable, make it so that maybe you're really into betas, right? You're super duper into betas, and you pitch in your $5 as a membership, and you love it. You're going, this is the best thing ever. And then the next month is cichlids, and you don't really care, but your $5 also carries over to that. And when we start doing more events and in-person events and more equipment, maybe for we've got this great speaker lined up, but they're having internet troubles. Let's buy them better internet. Let's make this happen. Let's do that. All of that kind of goes into that same fund, and I think that this will become a catalog for a long period of time that will be beneficial by many generations. And there's a bunch of other things that we're working on behind the scenes that I can't actively talk about, but some of it would be, it becomes a very easy resource to clubs to see other potential speakers, right? So if you have a local club, you can go, hey, if you're having trouble finding speakers, look at what Aquariumcoop's doing. You know that, oh yeah, GN is out of San Francisco, and maybe that's close to your club, or they could, fly them out. And so we want to be that resource too. And I think it's important to be able to kind of check out what the talk's going to be like. Is our group base going to enjoy this? Are they great at speaking? Are they not? Is this, you end up knowing your club, and so you can know, will people enjoy this or not? So can you just ask, like, oh, it's not member-only chat? Yeah, at the beginning we stated that it's just subscribers and up today because we had member-only chat yesterday. I thought this was a good opportunity to let people get questions in. Super chats are also on, so that if you were just and I keep saying just and that's my vocabulary, not me thinking lesser of a subscriber. But if you were at the subscriber level, right? If you're at that level, you can get your messages in, you can super chat, you can do those things. And I just thought we didn't really need to have 2 member-only chats back-to-back 2 days in a row. I'm sure some of you have new problems today. Like, oh, I didn't have the problem yesterday. My questions aren't getting answered. But, I just thought it would be spice it up a little bit, right? Because I've kind of done, for me personally, it's like 2 things in a row. Like, oh, just interacting with the members, and then just interacting with the members. And I like to open it up. But yeah, so what was I lost my tangent I was on with the membership, but yeah, there's still things, like the camera thing, where Zendo was on camera and not doing a lot of time. We'll try and fix that. Part of it is by giving a lot of control over to the presenter to control the presentation and all of this. They also, I think, had to turn Zenzo's camera on, and then they'd have to turn it back on when when we move to the next part, and they would be more controlling the flow, where Zenzo was able to chime in and be like, okay, let's move on to this next thing. But yes, I know where I was going kind of with a lot of this was, so we had the chat interaction where they could ask some questions. We had the forum where you could pre-ask questions and she could get ready to answer questions, hopefully in a meaningful way to her. Because as a presenter, you never want to just be saying, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. So having some questions that you have time to think of a thoughtful answer is nice. And then also, we're trying to follow up, and I don't want to speak for her or anything like that because we hadn't discussed this before, but we're trying to follow up with, there was some questions from the forum, and obviously there was like 100 questions. We're not going to have her do them all, but there was some more questions we didn't get to, and maybe there was a question or two out of the chat that we didn't get time to fully go through. And so we're asking if she'd be willing to film like a short video about some more of those questions, or Zenzo and her kind of do another little Q&A, and then have that to be a follow-up. And I don't know if it's members only. Do we use it as a promotion? The goal is obviously to get that information out there. But there's some other things too. We've thought of some other things about, like I want the speaker to be able to see the feedback, and I don't know if GN is a member or not at the moment. But maybe we need to add that in where we go, hey, we're paying you $505, and then please sign up so that you can be a member for the month that you speak, so that you can also read the comments, and if you want, you can respond to them and kind of close that feedback loop, because there's still feedback coming in where, the feedback for the majority, great presentation, all of that. And I think it's important for a speaker to get that feedback loop. I always want to know genuinely, how did I do at this talk? Did you enjoy it? What didn't you like? And kind of get that collective feedback, so you go, okay, well, next time I try something like this, I'll try to do better at this. I'll try to do less of that. And, so hopefully it makes her a better presenter, not that she needs it, or anyone, a better presenter for the next club that comes along or the next teaching experience. And I honestly think it was the best first club talk we could have, to speak to more about the why is it live. And I actually think, so I want to address Susan, like there's a setting in StreamYard to have Zenzo come in the background and on screen. Yes, I'm fully aware of that. I'm actually well versed in StreamYard, and but making sure it's a seamless flow for the presenter. That's the thing of letting them host their screen, getting cursors on screen, getting, there's certain what do I want to say, like comfort levels, things like that. But yes, definitely there are settings we can tweak and play with to hopefully improve it that next little bit. But in terms of the whole meeting aspect, right? So I feel like we dialed in and we pretty much nailed the presentation portion of that. Now, the things that we'll want to interject, like one of the examples was maybe a break for the speaker, where maybe we have a commercial, or, which I realize seems not good when you're paying for it. And commercial might be the wrong word, but an intermission or something, so that not just the speaker, but everyone could be like, oh, I need to use the restroom real quick. I wanted to grab another something to drink or something to eat, or I need to, the dog wants to go to the bathroom, but I don't want to miss it live. And so maybe at the halfway point, we have a commercial or some little video or something planned ahead. Like maybe, and this all becomes, how far forward can we plan ahead and get good? Like maybe if we were 5,000% on our game, right? We would have flown Jimmy out. Jimmy, go record her tanks and do a thing with her. And then we'll hit the play button on that video, or Zenzo would on his end. That'll play for a 5-minute, a 5-minute intermission, so people can do what they need to do. And then she comes back and continues to present. And we'll try and time that, obviously, with like a content switch in a presentation, and not just like, well, it's a minute, we need to take a break. But instead, something hopefully tangible and meaningful. And we're going to have other things in the meetings too. And that we're not going to try to make them forever, right? Like one thing is I don't enjoy, it's time to hear the club minutes and the voting and all of this stuff before a presentation. I like to get straight to the presentation, get my learning. But then, you've got, like, what do normal clubs do? And a lot of you have never been to a normal club, so there might be some kind of, auction. Maybe we could auction something off, or maybe there's a special way to buy something, a group buy, right? Or maybe, maybe if GN had a bunch of betas, it's like, oh, actually, here on my website, you guys could be buying the betas right now, like after the talk. Like maybe that's a thing. If we get if and when, it's kind of that, the breeder award program, maybe the horticulture award program, maybe just something cool to see in the club, right? Or maybe, some clubs you have where you'll have like mini presentations. I know Dean and I and other people have done that, where it's like, okay, you need to make a 5-minute video about a subject. Maybe I think the ones we've done in the past is like different live foods. Maybe something like that, and like, hey, we'll put that at the end. And I'm not sure how this looks, but it's more meant to be an actual club and a meeting, and those usually encompass more than just a presentation. And so, different speakers might have books and things like that. We can do special group buys, and there may, a lot of times they're signed copies where they're not always signed. And so I think these meetings will go on kind of a long time. And what I mean by that is, I think 2 hours is a normal thing. It could be, I would wager most meetings will be anywhere from maybe as short as an hour and 15 minutes to as long as 2.5 to maybe even 3 hours. Every once in a while, that magic storm happens where you have a speaker who runs long, and then there's still a billion questions, and people are hyper engaged, and the questions are just flowing, and that question spawns another question. And being that we're not, like my local club meets on a Tuesday night, starts at 7 p.m., and those long ones start running to like 11 p.m. Sometimes you don't get out of there till midnight. Being that it's on a Saturday and more accessible to more people, not everyone's in the same time zone, obviously, but you can bow out and not feel like you're missing out. And so you could bow out, watch the rest of the talk. Now, there's already things to like analyze of like, oh, but if people wanted to buy or there was an auction, people are going to feel like they're missing out if we don't run at the beginning. And yeah, so, it's going to take some time to really perfect this. But I do think I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see other, creators and organizations kind of doing what we do. That's, that's a common thing of when you see something working well, why wouldn't you want to do that? And so I think it's working pretty well so far with each meeting. I think I'm not going to say we're going to get better every time, because sometimes it takes time to build out things. Like Melissa's asking, oh, could we do BAP and HAP programs for this club? It seems like a ton of work. It is. And so we've scoped some things out, right? And then we need we want to bring the Aquariumcoop polish to everything. And so that means we need databases being built. We need good workflows being done. We need to accept pictures and video and award the points and have you be able to look at it any time, have a database where someone is reviewing it and going, hey, that is a CARES fish. Let's make sure they get the CARES flag on that thing. Let's have a leaderboard. Let's have, here's where the reward levels are. Here's the rules. Here's all of this. And so launching each one of these things needs to be more than just an afterthought of like, submit fish, we'll arbitrarily issue points, and then maybe things will happen. Instead, it needs to be a really kind of refined thing that it doesn't have to cost us money, but it always ends up costing us money to really build in. And so like the first piece of that whole puzzle for us is going to be the like the YouTube integration, because if we can't sync YouTube and our website, there's no way, Kylie in the chat says I just liked, but you could submit, a fish spawn, and that's not part of the club, right? And so we need to go, okay, yeah, you've authenticated your account, you became a member, you get access to these features, and it's not that 100% I want to keep out people who aren't a member, but it's like everything, we have people that just don't like us, right? And so they sign us up for spam. They spam stuff. They do denial of service attacks, all this kind of stuff. And so we just need to really safeguard our community and our business from people who are trying to bad act. Same reason, like in the chat right now, you have to be a subscriber for at least 24 hours. And that's so that you don't just subscribe and spam us, right? It can be as short as 5 minutes, but anyone who wanted to be a bad actor and just spam something, they're like, okay, subscribe, wait 5 minutes, here's my spamming. So, yeah, the kidney bean. I forget. Yeah, it's like I forget what the kidney bean pie is. That what I can't even remember. It's been a while. So yeah, that my live reaction is I think it was really well done, well received. I watched it for 2 hours. The format for me was amazing. I got to interact with lots of fans and members, you guys, while learning a bunch, right? So I actually had it going on this screen, and I had chat on this screen. And I also was able to work a little bit, answer a few emails and, do some more Peru stuff. And I think that's, I think that's really the format that most people are going to consume this in. Like, you might be kind of listening and playing some video games. You might be working a little bit. People have asked if it'll be in an audio only format. It won't. The presentations are usually fairly visual, like, and you learn some things, and yeah. So I think things will evolve. I think that's the takeaway. I still think there's a long way for us to go. Like in our meeting with YouTube, I said, they asked, like, have you thought about charging more? Have you thought about other tier levels? And I said, yes, I have, but I still think we have a lot to deliver. If we're $5 a month and Netflix is $12, we're not even in close to the Netflix, right? We are very targeted in that we only do fish content, so there is some value to that, right? But I think we're still trying to make the overall experience a better thing. So you guys are saying we want Dean. Yes, we do have Dean. Dean's kind of a reserve speaker. He's local to us. He's very engaged in the channel, and so if someone was to fall ill or just absolutely could not get their talk done, we would probably have someone like Dean step in and give his presentation. And one of the things I'm really trying to avoid here is I don't want our presentations to be YouTubers. And Dean's like riding that line, right? He doesn't put out videos officially, but he is on our channel. And because I want to give this platform to people who, and like Gian, I get it. She is on YouTube, but she hasn't made videos in a few years, right? And so I want to get some of these people that are knowledgeable and good at what they do and all of that into a video format where it can be enjoyed for years to come. Where, if Dean had spoken yesterday, well, he was basically his own video on Friday, right? And so if we really want, we want Dean to speak about Rams, or we want Dean to speak about his fry setup, both of those have already been captured. And I think we can still do those videos, and that's still things we could do both as member only or general public. Like, all of those things can happen. But I don't want, like, there's an event coming up, I think, in Oregon, the GPAS, right? Greater Portland Aquarium Society. I don't know what month it is, but there's going to be 3 different YouTubers there, and that will be fun, and it will draw a lot of people. But I think we've kind of gone in this cycle where YouTubers were kind of never at meetings, right? Not never, but like weren't speaking at meetings, right? And kind of the ground support from fans and all that would be like 1 million people will come. This will be great for the clubs, and it has done that, right? But then also, I think it's kind of become this easy answer of like, well, what if we just hire these YouTubers to give their presentations? And I make no mistake, I am not a replacement for anyone who has specialized in something. I could never do what Gian has done with bettas. I could never do what Gary Lang has done with rainbow fish. I could never do, Joe Cutler, what he's done with marmorids. And so at best, I'm reciting firsthand knowledge of my fish room, secondhand knowledge that I've learned. And these are people that are studying, and you get these, at least opinions and possibly facts from people that are learning them real time, and so there's not that lag of information and all of that. And so I want to, I personally want to make sure we preserve that these as close as we can get, experts in their fields of what they're speaking on, still have a platform to speak, and whether that's in our club talks or local club talks and things like that. So yeah, I would like to see this movement also happen at shows, so Aquashella, if Aquatic Experience ever comes back, there's these shows, and I think it's great that YouTubers can show up and you can interact with the YouTuber, but I still think we should have as many non-YouTubers as we can get, essentially, on the speaking platform. And it's not that maybe YouTubers should never have it, but YouTubers showing up is enough to get fans showing up. But I think once we're there, like, okay, once we get the people, what is the goal? Like, so if you got the people there, you've made the money for the event. After that, hopefully they have a good time and they learn stuff. And I really want to make sure we focus on that. And I've always been education, you guys know that, and I try to focus on that in everything that we do. Is if people are buying from us and chipping in and all that, how do we make sure that we're trying to deliver the education portion of it? Because otherwise we literally are just a commercial, and we get that feedback a lot. I am a commercial. The only reason we ever started YouTube was to promote our business. But I try to walk this line and get this happy marriage between the two of, yes, to pay for cameras and equipment and this $500 a month internet connection and going to Peru to find out corridors live on sharp substrate all takes money. And I don't think many people are willing to do that, including the speakers. The speakers put out their own money, they go do this research, they learn all these things, and then they speak at a club and they get $100, right? And they get flown out and they get to see some people's fish room, and it's kind of a little vacation for them, but that actually doesn't fund them to do the next thing. And I think $500 is not enough, but it is the right stepping point of like, okay, let's make sure this is sustainable. Let's, and we want to build it so that hopefully, if you guys liked the talk from Jeanne and you want more from her and all of this, that, hey, we're going to do this event. By the way, Jeanne will be here, and so maybe some people will fly out that we're the super beta nerds, or you would just like to say thank you, and maybe we're just local, right? There's always going to be the, I'm super passionate, I will fly to that. Then there's the, it's in my backyard, how could I not go, right? So you get both those types of people, which will be good. All right, so I think I have sufficiently reacted to the live stream. I hope if you guys are this far in, you're listening on the podcast, or you're just watching after the fact, that yeah, you become a member. And the one thing I'll leave with memberships there, because I get it, it's been an infomercial for, basically, in my opinion, every YouTube video is an infomercial. There's plenty of YouTubers that just call that out all the time, and I agree. Like, it's such a, it's so hard to do things for free anymore in a professional way that everything kind of has to be an infomercial. But the sooner you join, basically, the sooner your benefits start accruing. Like, we have the ability, I've seen it, I've tested it, that it brings in and it says when you've joined, how long you've been a member, right? So when you join is one metric we have. But if you join and then stop for 6 months, like, you're still just a member for 1 month, even though you joined at a certain point. And so we'll be able to do some things if we ever need to go, well, this dinner place only, at this event only seats 30. Like, okay, well, let's invite based on longevity and some random or whatever we're going to do. And so, yeah, I just think it helps found what's to come forward. All right. I know some questions have come through. Let me see. Let me check super chats and stuff. I try to, here we go. Oh, yes. Rico Stan says, just a reminder, I know you're incredibly busy, but I bug you every couple of weeks or so. Yes, I will. At some point, I need to schedule something with Rico to be on his live stream. Right now, getting ready for Peru has been difficult, basically, is what I could say. Is ordering currency and working with all the stuff that we have to get done. I'm actually really under a crunch right now to get a lot of stuff filmed. If I don't film anything, well, and even if I do film something, you'll probably see another video when we were at Dean's. But I got 3 more groups of fish last night, and there's other new stuff. We're waiting on supplies to show up and videos to make, and like I had some tweezers delivered for something I want to do, right? The Aquariumcoop tweezers. So there's lots of stuff in the works. But yeah, I'm actually, until I get caught up, I try to not. My rule is don't agree and plan new things until I've caught up, because then I'm just burying myself more, and I don't back out of things if I can all help it. So I don't want to say, let's do it this day, and then it turns out stuff came up, and yeah. So Joel just said, oh, the meeting was yesterday. Yep, the meeting was yesterday, and I'm really hoping that YouTube will. One of my feedback is, how can we plan this better so that notifications are better? And they did give a little bit of like, hey, you could do this, and that was true. But there was also a bunch of things that like, well, this needs to be better. Like, this is not working. So, and hopefully the more we do in everyone's mind, they're like, oh yeah, it's the third Saturday of every month. When's oh, that's this week. Like, as you do it more, as we do it more, it'll become more commonplace to remember that. I know that the GSAS meeting, second Tuesday of every month, and you just remember that. And so it's easier to plan out when you go, do I want to do that? Oh, I want to go to the meeting, so I won't do it that week. Thanks for opening the chat to the public. Just want to say thank you to Aquariumcoop and Corey for evolving the community and hobby and elevating into quality products, resources, and lifestyle. Well, thank you, Dead Poet. My business is booming and growing. Kind of, yeah. I mean, obviously, well, I shouldn't say obvious. That's not obvious to everyone. In the summer, there's this severe downturn, right? And so we're dealing with that right now, but it's on the same trajectory of like September, October should come back to booming. Someone I think in the chat was asking tips for shipping fish during the summer, and I think there's I don't think there's like a silver bullet. The best tips you have is use extra water, use bigger styrofoam, like thermal mass, right? Like if you had 10 gallons of water you're shipping, it takes longer for that to heat up to a warmer temperature, right? And then longer to cool down. But it costs a lot more money. And so really, I don't think there's any practical beat the heat tips when you're shipping fish, other than less fish per bag and just trying to do the best you can. And if you realize like, oh, where it's going is on fire, maybe you wait. And it could be literal, like on fire, but mostly like it's really hot. And then you also, especially with COVID right now, you don't know the route. It's like, oh, we're shipping from here to here, and it might go in there, right? That's what we see with our plants a lot. Is there used to be like, oh, there's flights from here to here, and 7 of them a day. Now there's 0 a day, and it only is a three-leg flight to get there, and that's way different. And so it changes a lot of stuff in our business. So, you try your best. I think that's all we can really do when we don't ship fish, but when everyone's shipping fish, and when I get fish shipped in, yeah. All right. 30 minutes was a great time period for notification. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe we should put a poll up on that. I don't know. I don't know what the right time for a notification is. Like if we notify you too early, right, you might forget about it. Or if we're too late, obviously. And half the time, honestly, is me needing to get better at what I do. So part of the problem is I have to schedule a notification and then test it, right? And it takes a few minutes for it to show up on my phone. Well, it showed up on my phone, and then I was like, oh, the live stream setup is lagging today. So I shut down everything, restarted, and then I forgot to actually finalize the button. It loses all the settings, so I had to make it real quick. So I actually added 15 minutes for today, and then it ended up being 6 minutes because I was like, oh no, it didn't go out. But part of that is just, maybe I need to outsource that to one of the employees and be like, hey, you need to take care of this for me, because I'm obviously struggling with the stuff I have to, because I'm trying to be in the chat, be engaging an hour before we go live, answering emails, trying to get ducks in a row, trying to get stuff up on screen. So I got stuff up on screen that I'm not even using. So let me show you. Like I was in my wisdom, I was going to be like, oh yes, talking about the live or the club meeting, right? And then I was going to be like, and you can find, here's going to be the playlist that is just, let me click on this. There we go. Got the cursor. This playlist will be just, long term. You can see some of the content we've got there. Long term, it's just going to be the past club presentations, and it was 2 hours and 9 minutes, and that'll just be a list of those. And then you've got, obviously the members only videos, and those can be as weird as making guacamole with Dean, to Zenzo jumping into a pond, to Randy shooting a tour of wild fish tanks stuff in his garage, to me doing members only videos, and this is where it lives. And then we also have one that's not up yet, but we'll also have all the upcoming presentations as we kind of get their photos and their descriptions and all of that. And so the goal would be that you can actually go in and you're going to be able to click in here. Let's see if this will work. You'll be able to click in and actually, set that reminder so you'll get your own notification on what's going on and all of that. So, yeah, and there's lots of comments and I thought the chat would show. So yeah, it says live chat not available. So we need to go in and put some show notes and that kind of stuff. But yeah, the goal is make everything accessible and easy to find. And I know it's not on, I think you can't chat on iPad and TVs, and there's a lot of limitations, but this is still the best package in which we've found to be able to present this kind of information to people. So, all right. Lots of, or not lots, but new members, which is always good to see. Melissa says, thank you for your advice on my ranchu last week. A large dose of salt for 1 week did the trick. Smart home thermostat saw I wasn't home and raised the temperature while I was on vacation. Shouldn't occur again. That's a very interesting problem to have. Technology is kind of throwing us under the bus. I hadn't thought about that. See, I have dogs, right? And so I didn't use the smart feature because I was like, well, if I'm not home, I don't want them to get too hot or too cold. In the winter, let the heat be off. In the summer. And so I didn't utilize that, even though I'd save a little electricity. Like out here, I don't have any fish in the house, but I could definitely see how, it being smart, it's the same problem that you run into with school aquariums, office aquariums, those types of things. Like for the summer, a lot of the air conditioning and that kind of stuff goes out the window. They don't use it anymore. And then on the weekends at businesses, sometimes if you're just a Monday through Friday business, they won't have AC, or they'll do whatever they're doing on the weekend there. So yeah, that's actually a warning that I hadn't thought to even throw out there. Is make sure that as we adopt more and more smart features, they don't necessarily factor in. And that's, if I was in that industry, I would take that feedback if I ever heard that and go, wait, we need to have our live pets in the house toggle. Oh yes? Take that feature away, right? Because whether you have birds, reptiles, dogs, cats, fish, all of that stuff will probably be impacted by what you've got going on. That's a good call out. Robin Davis, $5 super chat. Thanks for the knowledge. Well, thank you. Hopefully you're a member. I still wish it would show that. That's another complaint to YouTube. I've got a 20-gallon high, moderately planted tank with a Tidal 55 and a sponge filter. I've got 8 zebra danios, 6 fire ring danios, 1 zebra danio, 1 glowfish, plus 4 amano shrimp, and 3 Nitrite snails. How many more fish can I add? Doing a little bit. 14, 15, 16. You could, and this totally depends on a lot of things. Do you have live plants? How often do you change water? What's your water structure look like? How are they getting along? What fish are you going to add? But you could probably add another couple groups of 6 fish or so. But one thing you might find value in is I added some Corridoras, and if the danios are up top, maybe you added a Rasbora or a Tetra in the mid-level, right? You definitely want some fish that will kind of not always inhabit the same space, but I think there is some room depending on what you're doing. But I also think that, do you need to add more fish, or should you add just another fish tank, right? It obviously is easier the less load there is, but only you can really answer that question. All right, back to the chat. Any meetings planned at your store for the local NERMs? Nothing official yet. We're still waiting on venues and stuff like that. There's a lot of COVID stuff still. Like, well, we're not really set up for that. We don't know what the legality is right now. I mean, we did that flash meetup the other day on Tuesday. For about an hour. Some people show up for that. But yeah, it is in the. There's a lot of things. There's so many the things we want to do for membership. There's 100 things on that list, and what can we tackle? What order makes sense to tackle them? All of that. Zenzo's still not falling. That's the wrong word, but like settling into his role and learning, and just like I'm learning, like, oh, is that going to work? Oh, that was a train wreck. Oh, people don't like that. They do like this, and so we're making our way through it. Let's see. ETN, the Aquariumcoop fish nets and lights. We've covered the lights in a previous one. We're many months out probably. The fish nets, I believe, will be here sometime in August, but that's pending delays at the port and all of that. So we're still some ways away from that. What was that light that would turn on and off at random and on the right side of the ladybird's tank? Well, it's still doing it. It's just kind of off camera. Wait, is my screen slightly off? Let me see if my screen's slightly off, or no, I don't think it is. Wait, now I'm paranoid. Is my video capture device there? I think that's a slightly better picture. Anyway, that light is one of the prototypes, and we've got newest versions. I just got pictures of them of prototype packaging. Now they don't have, it doesn't have like our actual branding and everything on it, but like the thickness of cardboard we want to test. Like, this is the nerdy level we're getting to: thickness of cardboard, overall packaging. Is this in plastic? Is it in foam? Is it doing this? Is it doing that? Is this thing working? So yeah, that's what light is continually going on and off, and I don't see a reason to stop it. Like, if it was to crap out in 2 weeks from now, we want to know that. So yeah, and it doesn't seem to bother Ladybird. So there's that. Am I gonna have a booth or no? A table at Aquashella? I don't know yet. We basically have been talking with them a little bit, and that's actually why, like, Sean was in, well, not the only reason he was in town, but there was a local event called Reefworks that happened on Saturday, and for saltwater. And Sean and George, the owners of Aquashella, were in town. So we actually had we spent half a day in dinner with them, talking to Sean, and we're trying to figure out what we might be able to do or not be able to do. I think the Chicago that's next. I think we're either in Peru or right back from Peru, so that one's definitely that's not going to work. But technically, because did I say this? We couldn't make the UK thing happen, so we won't be doing the October UK event. So that leaves us with 3 other events that we could do, and one of them was definitely Aquashella. So I did learn some new things about Aquashella Halloween version. In that there's trick-or-treating, so it's always meant to be like a kids event too, where you can bring the kids and the family, and so you can go to each booth and get candy. So that's something I didn't know about it. And then there's the costume contest, both for kids and for adults. I also wasn't aware of that. I don't know if it didn't come through in marketing or if it, and they said they did it last year too, so I guess I'm not aware, because I didn't go to that Halloween one either. And I pitched them some ideas that I thought would be really cool. Like, I thought, and we have no idea if this can be pulled off, because you don't know if every vendor can do it, but I said, how cool would it be if, you walk up and you trick-or-treat if you're a kid, here's some candy, right? Every kid can probably appreciate some candy. And then there'd be an adult trick-or-treat where you show up and, like, I hand a bottle of Easy Green or a t-shirt, and you go to Mag Float, and maybe Mag Float gives you a tiny Mag Float or whatever, right? Like, maybe it doesn't make sense for them because like, well, we gave away our only one product and it's a Meg float, But I thought it'd be really cool if you could get stuff from vendors that, even if it's a pen or a hat or, it does raise the cost of doing an event like that. But I just thought some kind of adult trick-or-treating thing where you get stuff for your aquariums would be fun and engaging and another benefit, kind of like a choose your own swag bag. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it's got to be like you get, and this is going down the rabbit hole, this is what I do all day long, but it's like, okay, if that's not affordable or doable, what about you get like the little raffle ticket things? You get 5 of those when you check in. You can redeem those at 5 different things, and that's your trick-or-treat thing. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work, but I do know that Aquashella wishes that they marketed better and more people knew how much money they're donating to charity at these events, because a lot of people don't realize that all of the raffle tickets, so usually they get lots of businesses to donate stuff, right? And at all the raffle ticket things, so you buy raffle tickets, right? And then you put your name in the box or whatever that's going to look like, or looks like. I mean, I've seen it, but I don't know if it's still that way. And then all of the money that was bought from raffle tickets goes to, and I don't remember the exact name of the organizations, but I believe basically there's like usually one freshwater, one saltwater, and then there was also, at least one of the times, was to like an anti-cancer fund. And so all of that money, and I want to say it's like 20 or 30 grand at this point, I think, is what's been donated. Now, to some, that's not very much. To some, that's a huge amount of money. And I think it's respectable that it does. It's not just like lining someone's pockets. It goes to, one of them is coral restoration. I think there was something with the Amazon. And then, so there's different things. And I don't know exactly how it's split up and all of that. And I try not to get involved in it. I just try to be part of the thinking, it's probably going for something better. I don't need to stress myself with that. But I remember one of them we donated some, and Chris Lucup donated some stuff, and yeah. So, I'm hoping I can help them with their marketing, mostly of like, we can educate people about what you're actually trying to do. And I've got ideas, so we'll see if we can pull some stuff off or not. I don't know. How many guppies in a 10-gallon? Would you go with a species pair or some mutts if you're a beginner? If I was a beginner, I would definitely go with just some mutts, and I go for a group of 6, kind of 2 boys and 4 girls is what I would do, and just kind of try to witness some of the magic, get your bearings. You're not invested too heavily in it, because there's stuff to learn. Guppies can be pretty finicky. They're kind of highly inbred, and the mutts are a little better for that. Yeah, I would use an Aquariumcoop pin for the rest of my life. There's pins out there. We did that for a while. We're still looking for. I want to see. I haven't done this in a while. One of my favorite games every like 6 months is to see like what Aquariumcoop stuff is on eBay. Because sometimes you find old swag. This is kind of funny. So here's all the. There's only 6 results. I'll show them to you guys though. So we've got some Vienna guppy pairs from Aquariumcoop with 2-day shipping. That's interesting. I wonder who's selling it. This person, apparently. This person right here. And see, this is where I get a little like, can you actually say this is from Aquariumcoop? Maybe they got them from Aquariumcoop, and but they're living in Virginia. It's like, okay, well, maybe you say you originally sourced, and I should read the description. I should be fair here. Like, I could totally say that. Did they also buy these Metallicus live bearers from Aquariumcoop? I don't know. This one, obviously, I shouldn't say obvious. This one is, because you can see it's from our tank at the store. And then, like, there's not always, there's some resellers in Australia. They're reselling like planters and some fry food and towels and root tabs, I guess. So, yeah, but there's no pen. Sometimes there's like super old swag on here that's like, oh, look at, like, Like we have the old school ice scraper, the luggage tag, the pens, I kind of want to do some more of that. In fact, that we got a pen that I was like, yeah, this would be a great pen. I just got to get a barcode on the package. Thank you for great plant packaging. I used it to keep my fin babies during the Texas snowstorm. Yeah, I was showing Sean actually our bags I'm really proud of, and I still want to carry Turbo Start, which is like a super condensed version of the live bacteria we do sell. And they've got studies and tests, and part of it is if it gets way too hot, the bacteria dies, and so we end up using like some liners and that kind of stuff. But it can tolerate quite a bit, and so that might be a product we launch at some point. And no, I don't know when. This is something we've been talking about for like 2 or 3 years already. And so I don't know when, and we desperately need a bigger warehouse. We don't have space to put another refrigerator to hold another thing that's specialized, but it might be a good thing for us to carry long term. I still believe your best money spent is buying live plants because the rock wool is filled with live bacteria also. I still think that's the best. But there are obviously setups where the fish will eat the plants and things like that. So I've used it and I like it. And I do believe that it could be a good selling product. We need an aquarium co-op mouse pad. Yeah, I've thought about that actually. Again, the biggest thing is getting people to barcode custom-made stuff. It is, I can't believe how difficult it is, but that is one of the biggest barriers we have right now. Candy says, I would love for us to carry it. We used to sell Turbo Start when I was just the retail store. We carried it. We had a little fridge for it. We sold a lot of it. I really loved it. Once we went online, well, part of the problem we had at that point was we were selling it at a pretty decent clip. But the wholesaler we bought it from, because we weren't big enough to buy from Fritz directly like we are now, they wouldn't sell it as fast as we were selling it. And so we would get somebody like, this expires in like 2 weeks or a week. And Turbo Start, the super concentrated stuff, has a shelf life, I believe, of 90 days from the day it's bottled, right? And they basically, we would be ordering it and they'd be bottling it the day before, shipping it the next day. So we would get the maximum length, right? And it's still good, right? It's not like, oh, well, it's been 91 days, it's dead. It's like, okay, that's the time in which, okay, bacteria is starting to go down a little bit if it hasn't been stored properly and problems are happening. But we would get it, and then, like, let's say it would be a week till it expired, right? We would get it like, well, had I known it was going to expire in a week, I wouldn't have ordered so much. And then it was getting to the point where the wholesaler was having to give us new stuff. Because, if I ordered 20 bottles and we sell 10 bottles a week or whatever it was, we'd have 10 that would now be out of date. And morally, I would never be like, oh, well, let me just take the sticker off or tell people it's going to be okay. Like, it is okay. That's the thing. But there's no reason to lie to someone when we could, like, okay, do we need to sell it at half price from the vendor? And the vendor would give us new ones. And then because the wholesaler wasn't selling enough, it wasn't making sense to Fritz. Now I believe we probably could make it work if we get the bigger warehouse and things like that and some things situated that we would be getting it ourselves, and we could find out the right way to package it to make sure it doesn't get way too hot. It can go, I don't know how much of it I'm allowed to legally say, but it can go pretty warm. And it can, they've done some extensive testing because I had all these reservations when I visited the Fritz plant at an Aquashella years ago, right? And I got to actually see how they make it. It's somewhere in video somewhere. You can actually see how it's being made and cultured, and you talk to the scientists and all that. And I liked the product and it actually worked for me. And then also on the top of that, there's also, like, I believe the scientists there. I don't believe every scientist on everything, but it totally made sense the way they were doing it, the way I saw the process. And the majority of it, they sell it to zoos, like public aquariums and zoos and stuff. So, there's usually some pretty high-level people at these things, and they're seeing actual results, and they're spending that kind of money. I'd love to see the cycled media you saw in the giant German pet store. We've thought about doing that. Cycled sponge filters, cycled bio rings, all of that. The problem is, and I was explaining this to Fritz the other day, once you put your name on something, you are then at fault for everything. And so the minute we sell some cycled media, we sell 1,000 units, there's going to be 22 people that say it was not cycled, my fish died, you guys are horrible. No matter what we try and tell them, they're going to be assuming we're at fault. Now, we track everything down to percentages, fractions of a percent of reviews, of deliverability, all of this. And it's like, we will know through our testing and our spot checking and all of that, that 1 out of 1,000 maybe wasn't 100% cycled or something like that. And we know it won't be this because we would have stopped selling it, we would have pulled the product, we would have done all this. But no matter, we'll spend hours in chat and reimbursing and doing all of that to get a bad reputation. And so we try and avoid products that they are high likelihood to disappoint people. And those products would be heaters, medications, right? Things like bacteria. That'd be another high letdown item of like, I did this thing, it didn't work, right? Another item that we do sell that is a high letdown item would be our carbon. That's why I made a video about it, right? Our liquid carbon kills algae. I put a dose in there, it didn't make me breakfast. It's like, well, yes, it took you 6 months to let your tank become an algae farm. It's going to take some time to actually work out of that. It's not just a cure-all. It's not just a boom, it's done. It takes some time. You have to get your tank back in balance, and so we get bad reviews from that kind of stuff. And we go through every review every week. We sit down and I agonize and I hate myself, going, how could we? We literally paid a developer. I paid a developer a decent sum of money to make it so that we could exclude people from free stickers because there was 2 or 3 people at this point now that have been disgruntled about it. So we really value your feedback. We obviously love lots of good feedback, but we look at all the feedback and we take it in and we try to take it from this big, okay, there's 262 reviews on this product. We had 2 that are critical, we have 3 that are in the middle of the road, and we have a bunch of 5 stars. We look at it all and we go, are these isolated cases? Could we have improved branding? Could we have improved information? What could we do here? And so we try and avoid products that we know are going to lead towards jamming up customer service. And our goal is to always have a great experience as much as possible. That's our goal. Design the barcode on the product. We've thought about that, but I think it would look weird if you have this mouse pad and you're like, look, it's Murphy logo. I think that's. But I have considered that. We would actually save a decent amount of money. We could probably take $1 off every shirt if we had the barcode on the shirt instead of having to apply a bag, apply a sticker, apply this, apply that. We could, but then you're like, you got a barcode on the shirt? That's a little weird. All right, I'm getting lost in my own chat here. One moment. Love the auto feeder in the specimen container, says Cody Grain. Good to hear. In Zenzo's video, I used the specimen containers. I actually really appreciated how much clearer they are. It actually really is good for filming and that kind of stuff. Not that you guys will probably use it for that purpose, but I do a lot. And so I really like to be able to see it clear in front of me and really be able to analyze fish, and I liked it. And I also like that I was able to catch fish without using a net, because especially catfish and stuff, if you can kind of corral them in their puffers, and then you can kind of do this not whirlpool, suction motion where you kind of put it down and suck stuff into it, so you can catch whoop, and catch guppies and look at them and kind of release them back in. I was enjoying using my own product. I always love when I design and help something and I use it, I'm like, this actually came out really good. Okay, I wasn't, because not all the time I'm not 100% sure. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's all right. We'll have to see. And then when you're using it, you're like, yeah, this actually is better. I like that. Okay, I've really fallen behind here, so my apologies. When I was young, every fish came home with a drop of methylene blue in the bag. Have the trio just in case. Just got some cordon methylene blue, safe to treat the new fish with. It is if you know what you're doing. Me personally, there really shouldn't be a need for methylene blue in a bag between a store visit and home, honestly. I would also ask, are you sure it was methylene blue? Because for a long time, like at the store I worked at, this product, I don't think it exists any longer, but we used Bag Buddies. And Bag Buddies did have a little bit of methylene blue in it to turn the water blue. It was mostly marketing. But instead, it dissolved into oxygen. So you could put air in the bag and all that, and then you'd put this little pill in there. A little bit of methylene blue, but mostly for the marketing of like, ooh, blue water. But it did add oxygen. So, you close up the bag, and then there's extra oxygen in the water. And that was beneficial, I think. So, but you really shouldn't need the methylene blue in, let's say it's even a 4-hour trip home. Shipping fish, I could see it, right? And then especially if you're doing what you reasonably should be doing, quarantining at home and watching for this and using meds or not. I don't think that 4-hour window, like they either had fungus before, maybe they developed some kind of injury with a net while catching, but then when it gets home to you, you should be able to see that over a little bit of period of time. And I also think, I don't have this evidence, but I do wonder, 4 hours in that little bit of methylene blue, is that even enough to even do anything? I don't know that answer. All right. Have I been cooking up Repashy lately? Next Cooking with Dean episode, and I have a Murphy pin. I haven't. I've considered it. I've been so busy, and I'm like, what I'm trying to discern really is, am I going to cook up a big batch, put it in the fridge, and then like forget to use it and then go moldy? Because I have a habit of that. I got to be in the zone of like, yeah, let's feed it. And I should be. It is a great food. But I know my days are a train wreck right now. It just, everything is going a million miles an hour trying to get ready for Peru. I've got a 7-day lag time moving into my new house. My buddy is housing my fish, but I forgot to give him my sponge filters. Which product would you recommend to jumpstart the bacteria? So if they're not sitting dry already, just keep them in a bucket, and I would say just, you're probably going to carry most of the bacteria over, especially if it was tank water, because they'll still have stuff to process in it. Now, if you're you got the 7-day lag time, what I personally would do is either get those sponge filters and get them into those tanks if he's holding them, just let them sit there. B, when you move them, get them back in your tanks. I would wager you probably have live plants or some gravel, something that already has some bacteria. You're just waiting for it to reseed, and not reseed as in go down, but reseed, like seed the filter again. And the last time I read studies, which has been quite a while now, but in aquariums, they were able to test, and bacteria without an aquarium, like in ideal circumstances, was like it could double every 16 hours. In an aquarium, I believe it was every 24 hours. Now, we don't know how much bacteria we have in the substrate and on the plants and maybe that piece of wood, all of that, but reasonably after probably 4 or 5 days, you've made so much bacteria that you've probably fully seeded the sponge filter and that kind of stuff again. And so, as much as I would tell you, great, you should buy some Fritz 7 from us, right? And it could help. I'm not sure you need it though. So I'm always extra guarded with other people's money. If I was doing it, would I be like, glug, 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 here's some more, here's some more, here's some more? Yes, because it won't hurt. I would do that. But if I had to make the decision of I could buy more fish or I could do this with that same money, I would tell myself like, oh, I'm going to buy the fish. I'm going to buy this plant. I'm going to buy something else. But if it's purely in addition to, I can afford that, I'm not worried about the cost. There's times when you're like, I'm not worried about the cost. I'm worried about my pets. And if it will help you sleep better at night and you'll feel better, then yes, Fritz 7, you could order some Turbo Start. It'll cost you more money for sure because it's got to ship faster and be cold and it's a more expensive product. But yeah, if I'd be tempted to spend like the $10, I think that's what it is. Let me check my own website. Why not? That's what I have this window open for. Yeah, Fritz 7. I personally would probably grab a bottle of this and I would dump it in my tanks. Like not just the whole thing, but I'd be like glug 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 in this one, glug 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 in that one. I mean, you could follow the directions and all of that, but yeah, I guess if I'm being honest, I would do that. Now, like I didn't do it because it took me months. I set up stuff before I even moved it, and then I had cycled sponge filters, but I definitely have used this in store tanks before. I've used it in other previous fish room setups where I really want, like let's say I knew I had fish coming in 2 weeks, like okay, I really got to make sure, like I'll put a cycled sponge filter, I'll put this in, I'll really do everything I think I can do, live plants, to really make sure this is as well established, as as seasoned of a tank as I could make one before this fish arrives. So, but it's a $10 cost, and that means that's a different amount of money to everyone. Which some people might be thinking, no, it's $10 to everyone. Yeah, but it's the amount of time you had to work, the amount of available budget you have. If maybe you only get $20 a month. If that's 50% of your fish budget, I'd probably try to go, well, how can I save myself this? Where for me at this point, I'd be going, well, can I film a day sooner? Will this have a better transition? Will this work out? And I think that's probably worth the money to me. All right, if I can get my cursor, there we go, cursor's back. I'm fattening up some auto sinklets in quarantine, but I'm hesitant to start quarantine meds, the quarantine trio, given their sensitivity. Will they be okay with preventative dosing of the trio? It's easier for me to say no. So this is like, medications are a dicey subject, right? If I say no, and you don't do it, I don't get in trouble. If I say, oh, they'll be fine, and they die in 40 seconds later, Corey's a fool, he doesn't know anything. I can tell you, we put all of our autos that we sell at the stores through the quarantine trio, and I could tell you that if that was death every time, we wouldn't be doing that, but I can't know what is the condition of yours, what meds might you already have, what's your water parameters. I also can't tell you, well, I can tell you this, like I'm not sure you need to do the trio though. So if you've got a quarantine tank, right, and you've got all the time in the world, maybe if you reasonably believe they don't have any bacterial or fungal infections, maybe you just deworm them. And if you're, if you're not confident they probably don't have gill flukes and stuff like that, maybe you use ICX. But you could deworm them for a week, give them a week off where there's no meds, it's clean water. Then that following week, right, you could do ICX, or the other way around. Like there's so many ways to do meds, and this always, well, I thought you're supposed to do a trio. Like, well, yes, you can. It all depends on what's your setup. Do you have other fish coming in? You got to free up that tank. Do you only have one aquarium, and therefore you're putting it in, and like now there's a soup of stuff that could be going on? Are you at a store where a week from now there will be other fish in that tank before it gets moved out on a show floor? There's a bunch of different factors. There's also, like with autosinklets, they're not super well known for coming in with bacterial infections, where like guppies are, live bears are in general. Angelfish can do that, right? Or cardinal tetras, right? Cardinal tetras and neons, they get ick a lot. Same with rams if they're not kept warm enough. Like, so there are fish that might need one or the other med more often. Corridoras usually need deworming way more than other fish, right? But that doesn't mean that other fish don't have it, and vice versa. And so some people, there's different demographics in the world, right? There's some people that just tell me what to do, I need to know what to do. There's some people that like, I'll do nothing and I'll take my time. There's people that do in between. You kind of need to figure out what's going to work out well for you, but you should think about it in totality, right? So let's say you don't do any meds and you add those autosinklets in, and then in 6 months, you've added more fish, and you're not doing any, deworming, and then you go, oh man, all my fish are getting skinny, right? Or, and then you have to deworm them. So that, okay, you can do that. Or what if you deworm these autosinklets, right? But then you get what's something that people think is more clown loaches, let's say, and you don't want to jeopardize them. So you add them in, but you didn't deworm them, and they brought the worms in. Well, there was really no point to deworm the autosinklets then. So you're kind of at this like standstill of like, you either need to kind of deworm everything and really check over everything and kind of keep up the same pattern. And I guess maybe that's a big takeaway. Whatever it is you land on is what you do. You need to always do that. So like we always used a trio. You can't really become like, well, I'll do it here, won't do it here, will do it here, because that just turns into you're just basically not doing it. In that if you let, it's like if everyone You know, if everyone has to not be sick to come into the studio, right? Like that's the rule. Like, okay, you can't be sick, can't have a cold. And then you go, well, but Corey's the owner and he's got a cold, let him in here. Now I'm just spreading the cold. And that's what happens with fish. So it's got to be an all or nothing thing. When you derive your treatment plan for your fish tanks and the way you do it, you should hold everything to that standard, because if you don't, you can just end up in a scenario where the thing that you didn't treat is now the seed for what you don't want. I love the presentation yesterday. Thanks for coming up with the idea of having speakers. Makes me feel a part of the exclusive co-op club, although I live in Australia. Well, I'm glad you felt as a part of it. Hopefully the time difference wasn't too bad. And yeah, I hope we, you know, the soonest we've been able to even talk about going to Australia is like 2023, unfortunately. How many co-op sponge filters for a 40 breeder community tank? Currently have a hang-on back, want to switch to a sponge filter and air pump. I just use one of my 40 breeders. One medium sponge filter and plants is what I use. All right. Oh. I have trouble reading the nitrite test result on the test strips and finding myself following up with the liquid test. Any tips? I don't have my kit here, but I don't know that they're, you know, it's kind of well-lit room comparing to the thing. You just got to look at it. My biggest tip for this kind of stuff is yes or no. Like, that's what you need to be asking yourself. Are there nitrites or aren't there? Like, whether there's 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, that doesn't really matter so much. You know, it's kind of like how big of a spaghetti stain is on my shirt? Oh, it's 1/2 inch versus 1 inch versus 1.5. It's all like gonna ruin the shirt if I don't do something. Kind of the same thing with test strips. Like, okay, well, if you know, if you have nitrites there, you need to figure out what's your plan. Are you gonna change a little bit of water? You know, hold back food a little bit? Are you gonna dose some bacteria? You know, the yes or no. Sure, if it's off the chart, like that's kind of like, wow, okay, that's a much bigger problem. But I think most people when they test, and I've had it off the chart before, where it's like I was feeding really heavy and oh jeepers, but my mentality is still the same. Like, okay, I'm going to change extra water. I'm going to hold food back. I'm going to move a cycled sponge filter, another one in here. I don't even hook it up a lot of times. I just set it in there. Like I'll have extra ones. I'll be like, oh, I'll load up here until it rights itself, and then I go, okay, now I can introduce the food again and alleviate some of the water changes and get back to a routine. And then I don't have to really discern. I don't have to discern the actual variant there. And I'll reiterate: test strips themselves are not the most accurate. Digital calibrated stuff that takes more time and money is going to be better. However, in my aquarium hobby, I'm looking for quick and easy. So I want to go bloop. There's no nitrates. Great. Or nitrites. Oh, there's some. Okay, I need to now refocus on this tank and go, what can I do to, how did it come about? How do I think it arrived? What's my plan to get out of this? You know, and I think a lot of people, they become, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right adjective to describe this person. Maybe it's obsessed, worried, too worried, whatever it is, but like some nitrite at 0.5 to maybe even up to 1 is not a, oh my gosh, let me do all the things. Like, let me take a little bit of stress and blow it up into insane amounts of stress. Like, no, it's like, okay, I'm seeing some warning signs. I should change what's happening here to make sure that this isn't a problem that's going to keep growing. Instead, let's start rewinding this problem. And there's a lot of people that, you know, they read the right article and this and that, and yes, prolonged periods of stress kills things, right? And stress level kills things. So 1 part per million in a shipping bag and all that, like, yeah, it's going to be fine. 8 parts per million, maybe that's killing fish over a week or two, right? And so I think we need to look at it from, how do I change, how did the environment get to here? how am I going to ensure it doesn't stay here? And what steps that are minimally invasive can I take to bring that back to more where I think it needs to be, right? And so that's the way I would approach it, and encourage you guys when you're using test strips to do the same thing. Is my pH even in the realm? Good. Do I want to change it? I could do this, I could do that. Is it worth it? Do I want crushed coral in my show tank? No. Do I want to do a little more water change? Maybe. Are the plants consuming at all? Maybe. What else could I do? And think about it that way, and not like I have to fix it today, right? There's almost nothing in the hobby that if you're watching gets that way, except for ammonia. Ammonia in super high levels, you can have a fish deteriorate pretty quickly. Water changes usually are the short-term fix for that, with long-term being maybe more plants, maybe more water changes, maybe less food, maybe less fish density, but all of those are still long-term solutions. You can quickly solve a problem, but it doesn't keep it solved, right? It's like if you're down a person at work. You can work a double shift, but tomorrow you're still down a person, right? So you have to figure out, okay, well, can we have less clients? Can we buy better tools? Can we hire someone? What's the long-term solution here? Side by side, they're 100 times better than Lee's. Talking about the specimen containers. Sorry, not sorry. Well, I'm glad that you feel the same way. All right. Oh, man, my window is all screwed up today. I think it's because I changed the resolution on my stuff, so I'll just have to wait to answer more stuffs. I grow algae and green water in a tank. Oh, wait. In that tank for fry. I'm just worried because I'm breeding. Because the breeding stock were so expensive, I want to keep them going. Yes. I think Zenzo make a good work. Also the video from the urban fish farm or fish room. Yeah, Zenzo's been doing a lot of hard work, and not everything pays off. So you're only seeing like obviously the stuff that's come to fruition, but there's a lot of knocking on doors, trying to find venues, trying to work with organizers, trying to, you know, that's why UK didn't happen. It was gonna, like, had I just gone, I would have been like, this turned out terrible because of this and that and this. So we avoided a disaster, avoided maybe not having a great event, disappointing you guys, and hopefully we can redirect our efforts to a different event. Should you have live plants for a first tank? I think so. You know, I really think they bring a lot of benefits, a lot of positives. Even if you were to kill them all, right? You'll bring in bacteria. So at worst case, it's bacteria, just like buying bacteria. At best case, it's bacteria and you got a plant and it looks good. I think water changes fix like 97% of the problems in aquariums. Only if your water starts out really good. There's a lot of people that have ammonia, nitrite, nitrates in their source water. Like I've got a little, depending on, I should test my tap water again, because last summer there was a little bit of nitrates in here and I was excited for that because it fed plants. I should test that again, my apologies, to see if that also happens again. But also, there was a lot less water being used, so maybe my well cycled less. I mean, that might not be a thing. I don't know. I'm talking purely crazy at this point. But you know, water does change year round. Whether you're on like city water, well water, stuff can change. So yeah, I should probably, if I was better, I would test my water like every month and chart it or something. Has anyone found they use the forum a lot? I'm on there every day. I don't necessarily post every single day. I mean, I mostly do, but I'm definitely reading stuff every day. Let's see here. All kinds of benefits for having live plants? I think so. You know, it also allows you to start more tanks, like if they grow. When will the 1 liter refills of Easy Green come back? There's no current plans to do that. Right now it's the same concentration. Is that right? Yes, same concentration in the 500 milliliter, and the amount of plastic being used is the same, and we can't find a way to make it cheaper. So essentially, a 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters, right? We sell at 500 milliliters. 2 bottles equals the same thing. We do save 1 pump head, so there is that, But the extra packaging, we have to use a lot of extra packaging to keep that cap from breaking. And so it nets out the same or even maybe a little worse than selling the 500 milliliter thing. So right now we're not focused on that. Not that we couldn't find a different way and a better way to do that, but right now we haven't. We need to invest some time into sourcing technology of like an explode-proof bag that maybe we could refill. The other thing that we've, I keep looking into, and the answer keeps coming back like that ain't gonna work, but like a dry version of it that could refill, but the way it's mixed doesn't work. So we just haven't solved that one yet. And I've been in business long enough to know just because I can't solve a problem today doesn't mean the answer's not right in front of me 2 years from today. Like, look at that. Just needed time and it solved itself. That doesn't always happen, obviously, but it's worth revisiting every X amount to see, okay, have we found a better solution? I'm getting some clouded archers this week and there isn't consistent info online. What advice might you have on care and community compatibility? They got a big mouth, so they'll eat lots of small tetras and that kind of stuff. They're really quick to the food. So know that. But other than that, they're pretty easy to keep fish. They just happen to, there we go. Put my feet up a little bit. They just, they're quick and it's kind of like if you've ever kept tinfoil barbs, silver dollars, that kind of just like, I'm eating, I'm crazy. That kind of thing. But they're pretty easy. They're just expensive, but they're easy, I think. Would you treat a spotted Congo puffer for internal parasites? Yes. I believe he's wild and he's super young. I personally would always treat every puffer. Deworming is, in my opinion, very important, especially wild caught. But I feel like I become more attached to puffers as I grow. And so therefore I feel like they're more prone to getting hurt or like there's more risk. The risk is the same whether you do it today or in 5 years, right? Let's say 3 years in, it's like, oh, they're losing weight, blah, blah, blah. But mentally, I feel like there's more risk because I'm more emotionally invested in that puffer. And so that's why I like to do it at the beginning. Like assuming everything is equal, right? Given a choice, I would rather save my mental energy and have that puffer pass away on day 1 than year 5, right? And this, obviously we don't want it to pass away at all, but if you had the choice, I'd rather start over from the beginning and try it again, and then like, oh, I put all this effort and energy and mentally it's draining, and so I prefer to try and start with the best possible fish I can, especially when it's going to be a wet pet, or, what I mean by that is a, I got sidetracked by reading something, but I've lost my train of thought. I don't know. Basically, wet pet. A wet pet is something where it's like it gets a name, it gets its own tank, you plan on keeping it for a very long time, and not so much, well, it's Tetra number 27, right? And so you don't have the same most people don't have the same connection to Tetra number 27 as they do Ladybird and Murphy and Hank and these true wet pets. For me, I call them a true wet pet. I got distracted because my brain is always hypercritical, and so I started reading. I might have to cancel my membership, and instantly I was like, "Oh no, why? What can we do better?" And so it totally like sidetracked me, and said I might have to cancel my membership because if all the different talks are as good as yesterday, I'm gonna want all the fish. I have no self-control. That is a personal fault of mine. I dwell on negative feedback because I believe we can solve 98% of all problems. There's always going to be that 2%. And then it might be solvable, but not feasible. Like, oh, there's a way to do that. If I hand delivered every package, we'd never have a problem. It's not feasible though, right? And so instantly I'm like, okay, what is this person's problem? How will we be able to solve it so that it won't be a problem for anybody? And good to hear that it's your own, self-control. I'm the same way. And I utilize club meetings to keep me engaged in a hobby of like, yeah, I should I really should get beta alba marginata like I've been wanting to breed in the fish room. Like I got to source those. I got Robert looking for them. We haven't run into them. I got to run into them. I'm about to upgrade to my dream tank. A 250-gallon. I've got angels, electric blue acaras, denison barbs, threadfin acaras. Could I keep a flagtail, and are they fin nippers? I don't find them to really be fin nippers, but know that, in my opinion, it will outgrow that 250-gallon tank. When they start pushing like 22 inches, that is a lot of fish to feed, and they can be a little bit hard on plants. And I stopped keeping flagtails, even though I love them, and I have large aquariums. But even in like an 800-gallon, I think they outgrow it. And so I personally have stopped keeping them, even though I love that fish, because I'm not sure that I have big enough tanks to sustain them long enough term. And for me personally, like, well, when it outgrows the 800-gallon, where's it going to go realistically? Like, how many places are going to have a larger aquarium for this? And maybe they got ponds, and there are stuff out there, and everyone's got their own setup. But I stopped bringing them in for myself because, like, I just feel like they need a bigger aquarium. And I do like them, but I'm not sure that they're a wet pet to me, in that I'm going to go build a 2,000-gallon aquarium for them. Like, no, I would for Ladybird and Murphy and some of these other pets, but, and maybe if I had that aquarium, maybe then I would bring one on. But it's the chicken and the egg for me. Like, they grow much faster than a Maboo puffer does, so they would be the one that I would need to upgrade first for. Thanks for promoting the sustainability in the hobby. I'd love to hear more creators talk about the environmental impact of fish keeping. The honest opinion is that humans, we just devastate everything we touch. And even the people that, if I talked about it all day long, like let's say I try to do everything I can sustainably, and it's like, oh, but you're using electricity. Oh, but you're doing this, you're doing that. And so I have this weird stance of, we can only do the best we can do. And you at 12 years old might be, I try to recycle. And you at 20 years old, maybe you go, hey, I try to clean up the beach, and I try to buy sustainably, and I try to do this. And you at 80 years old, maybe you're like, well, I can't clean up the beach anymore. I actually have to have a caretaker, and they're just throwing stuff away. I tried to switch caretakers. I'm still trying to source reasonably sourced fish. I think the best we can ask is, you can try to make an effort. And if everyone tried to make an effort, maybe collectively that's enough to move the needle a little bit. I don't think that one person trying to do their absolute best actually makes a difference. Collectively it could. But I also don't think that we have all the information. So if we're doing the best anyone could do, that doesn't necessarily mean it's still good enough. And we can also be doing unintentional harm, right? So, but I do think it's a worthy conversation, and I do think there's just things like, one of the easiest things I think that we can do as a hobby. If we're using a Python gravel vac system, right? We have the choice of plugging it into our sink, turning the water on, it will start a siphon and suck water from your aquarium, and 70% of people leave that water running because it sucks it faster, right? And by one metric, we're wasting a lot of fresh water, drinking water, right? The next step from that for me would be, okay, well, what if we put the hose in the aquarium, and instead of attaching it to your sink, you suck on the end of the hose and you get it to flow into your bathtub. Maybe you can make that work. And so now we're not using fresh water, but we're putting that water down the drain. And maybe the next step would be, okay, we now suck on the end of that hose and make the water flow out onto your garden or your lawn, or I store the water and I use it to flush my toilet, right? So then we're getting like at least a second use out of that water, right? And then maybe the next step would be, well, maybe I use enough plants and this and that, so I'm only, I'm using half as much water as I ever did, right? So maybe that's even less. And you're still doing like okay, I used the water a second time, right? And then you might get to like a Charles Clapsaddle level where he's got his greenhouses and all of that, and he's only replacing water for evaporation, right? And so that's about 2% every week, I think he said, right? But then you could take it to another level, right? There's always another level, and that's part of the problem. It's like, okay, well, what if I was to collect rainwater? Like maybe that is, and I say maybe because I'm not convinced it necessarily is better, but if I could collect rainwater, remineralize it, would that be better than just well water, right? Because then you're and it's all in a, there's always a cause and effect on everything. But I think the reasonable things we could be doing as a hobbyist is go, okay, well, let me just look at what I'm doing. Could I do it a little bit better? Could I try and use a reusable bucket when I buy fish? Could I try to use a little bit less water? Could I try to reuse the water, right? There are some countries where water is very expensive, and so they actually try and purify the water and reuse it, right? So we all can pitch in our own ways, but I also don't think that there's an ideal scenario for every single person. It's got to be individual. It's got to be what can, at some point, right? Oh, I reduced water changing, I reduced this, I reduced that, my fish died. So then I had to buy more fish. And the carbon footprint of getting it from this country to this country, me going to get it, the store using meds, the store doing this, and this, actually netted out to be worse for the environment than if I had just changed more water. So, even with great intentions, we can find out that we actually were doing more harm unintentionally. And I think the biggest first step for a lot of people is, let's just think about it. Let's try to, and that's why I always tell people, use what you have first. Oh, you got a filter, a hang on back there, use that. You don't need to throw that away and buy a sponge filter. That's a way worse environment, right? You don't need so much filtration for your aquariums. You don't need to use that much power. You don't need to do these things. So finding, or for most people don't. I mean, maybe you severely overfeed and you've got problems and this, and maybe you do actually need it. But I think a lot of people don't. And so those are ways we can reasonably try to improve our own hobby and our own goals, and hopefully in a roundabout way collectively helps the environment a little bit. And it could be that you see studies that like, oh well, shopping bags and straws and this and that is doing so much more that even if every aquarist was the perfect aquarist and we deemed what that was, it wouldn't even make a dent. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. It doesn't mean that I don't lose anything by making my lawn look a little better from fish poop. So I think there's got to be more reasons than I'm only doing this for the environment. I think it's mostly I like seeing how this is efficiency, right? I want to see my plants grow better outside. I want to see this happen. I want to see this happen. So I think that's an easier thing to keep going. All right. Am I going to be doing a plant talk by chance? Like me personally, I haven't done one in a while. We do have Tom Barr, who I think he's got a PhD. I don't know if it's in actual plants. Anyway, I think he works for the state of California for water species plants and that kind of stuff. But I mean, I've got knowledge on plants. I don't know if I'll put together an actual talk. With my teaching, I really focus on average day consumer, new people to the hobby, all of those aspects, because I believe that that's the hardest gap to bridge. And so I put most of my attention there. I think if you're already like a super plant nerd and want a technical talk, I think that stuff's out there. It's profitable. And my business is profitable too. Obviously, if you didn't keep plants, now you get plants, we make money that's profitable. But I think there's far more people that, I think the statistics something like 80 or 90% don't have live plants in their aquariums. If I was to pull our community, it'd be a lot higher, but you already like plants if you kind of like us for the most part. But I think in general, when you're looking at a chain store, how many people get past a piece of bamboo that rotted in their aquarium, a moss ball, that kind of stuff? Not that many. And I think that's been my goal is how do we make it so that we now have the majority of people trying live plants instead of the minority? Aquaponics is the future of humanity. Using fish to grow plants is an incredible way to grow food and grow fish. It very well could be. There's a lot of things that on certain levels are sustainable and maybe you watch people do aquaponics and they're using these ginormous pumps to move water around and you're like, but what about the amount of power you're using to do this? And so it might then come down to like, oh, well, aquaponics plus airlift systems. So like a sponge filter is an airlift system. Well, you can move insane bodies of water, like using airlifts and that kind of stuff. And it's far more energy efficient if designed correctly. And so I do think there are systems that are mind-blowingly amazing. But a lot of times you'll see like, look what this can do. This is so good. And it only costs $4 million to build. If we can get this down to $142 to build out, saves the world. But we may never get there. But you do need people trying, experimenting, and learning, and that might spawn the next idea that does change the world. Because you run into all these weird scenarios of like, with aquaponics, if you're going to eat it, you can't use meds, you can't do this, you can't do that, which might mean using a lot more UV sterilizers to prevent the disease on the fish to keep them alive, which you're using more power. And so there's all these, like everything in the world. I change one thing, it has an effect over here. You change that thing, and it has an effect over here. And then that effect has an effect here. And then it affects here. And so you keep just moving these little levers, and you can get them closer to being aligned, but it's really hard to be like, this is, almost any statement in the world when it comes to sustainability and stuff, there's always a caveat. Well, except in this country. Well, except, so but I do think there's, depending on where in the world, fish farming might make a lot of sense where, aquaponics in Antarctica might not make sense. Maybe it does, right? I don't know the specifics, but I do think it's worth exploring, and everyone can be on their own personal quest. That's what I love about fish keeping, is I'm on a personal quest to learn as much as I can about fish. That's my own personal quest. And not just fish, the ecosystems and the little environment, and I like to spend time out in nature, and I like to just see, yesterday, all day long, Steamfod Aquatics, Bob, Jimmy, and myself were watching kingfish eat tadpoles and baby koi out of my pond. And a lot of people might really be upset about that, but I firmly believe that those kingfishers have every right to eat those fish just as much as I have a right to watch koi in my pond, right? And in my mind, I'm just like, well, I need to, we need to clear the blackberry bushes, the sticker bushes, to make sure that the water level's down by like a foot, so no fish are getting out. And we've got a couple of months to finish this project, but I need to make sure at the other side of that pipe, there's no way for them to get back into a watershed, and we put reasonable preventative measures and all of that into place. And yeah, and so I just believe that the heron and the birds and all that, they probably have more right. They were there before I ever moved in, right? So I believe that to be true. And so I like going, well, how am I going to figure this out? How do I make sure the koi breed enough so that I don't lose all my koi? How do I make sure they're not going to escape? How do I make sure that I get to enjoy watching the birds eat? You can look at it from how dare you, or you can go, that's really neat. I look at it from, that's really cool that I can sit here and I can watch this bird predator. I get to learn about how it swoops into the water, how it catches stuff. I get firsthand National Geographic stuff in front of me, and I put value on that. I put value on my koi. I put value on my hobby, but I also have let my hobby expand to, when the raccoons do play in the pond, when this happens, that's all another challenge that I get to go, okay, could I put a net over the thing, and could I do all of this stuff? I could. But I like having a watering hole for the coyotes to come. I like having a watering hole for all the deer and the animals and the birds and the ducks. And I saw something for the first time I had never seen just the other day. And that was, we've had ducks come into our pond, but we had these little baby ducks. And it wasn't super baby. It was like a juvenile duck. And the duck, we were walking around the pond and got spooked. And it ran across the water. Like, it didn't fly. It didn't just bob its head and move away. It when you see those yard decorations and like the feet are just like going around, it did that across the water. And then my brain was like, that's actually a real thing. I didn't know they could like run across water like that. And so I got to experience something I had never experienced at 38 years old in my life. And that's what nature affords me, is a front row ticket to something like that that's so cheap. Now, obviously property is expensive and all that, but I didn't really have to do anything to experience that. And I probably talked about that to my wife and other people, how I thought it was so cool, more than the last thing I ever watched on TV. And so that my hobby has expanded to, just looking at bugs and nature and how am I gonna keep these sticker bushes in check so it doesn't totally overgrow this, but at the same time I don't want to take away all the habitat for the snakes and the other stuff that need to live in here. How do I approach this in a sustainable way? And it all stemmed from aquariums, and it still stems from aquariums. It still comes back to aquariums for me on everything I do. So, all right. Country living is the best. I could never actually live in the metro area or a large city. Nature is all around you 24/7. This is the first time I've ever lived kind of outside of nature. I've always lived in town. I always loved it when I went camping or I was in nature or we were in Peru, but you can't quantify it until you've done it, where you're like, there's kind of always just something going on. Like we got a wasp nest, there's just always something, like nothing to deal with today. All right, let's do that. Yeah. Am I going to come to Germany this year? I should talk to Chris Lukup. We were exchanging some messages last week. I was trying to see if he could make it to come to Peru. He can't. But yeah, we're trying to figure out when might be a good time. Am I the only one that wants to collect all the fish in Minecraft for my massive custom aquarium? No, Corvus Oskin, Joel, who works for me, and used to do the Real Fish Talk podcast. He's on the same thing. If you're into that, he does some Minecraft streams, and he wants to build some giant aquascape stuff in Minecraft. So there's other like-minded people. I remember in one of your early vlogs, a bird of prey took one of our koi. Yeah, we had Moriarty, as I dubbed this heron, who swooped down and ate like a pretty big koi that was not cheap. And even though there's a rivalry, there's a respect there as well of like, well, I'm in your city and you're probably eating my koi because that's the thing that was available to you, because as we develop homes and houses around, there's not as many natural resources for them. And so I did put a net because I thought it was, a little too much shooting fish in a barrel. Like my pond's pretty big. There's a fair chance for the fish as there are the birds, but yeah, I try to be fair. I honestly, for me, who's to say that a human is worth more than a bird, in the grand scheme of things? I don't know that to be true. And I think usually there's a way to compromise. And, at the beginning of the day yesterday, I was like, oh, man's eating my koi. I was like, well, hopefully they spawn more koi than are being eaten. And then I saw them eating the tadpoles. And I was like, well, that's kind of nice because we got 4 billion frogs. So they're actually probably helping me in that regard, right? And I also don't need 5,000 koi in that pond. So they're helping me in that regard too. I just, it'd be nice to be like, cool, each year 2 koi make it. That'd be great. And then I'd be like, hey, my population, and I can catch a few out if it ever gets too populated. All of those things would be great. A nice, sustainable balance. But maybe next year, the bird tells all its bird friends, and there's 400 birds farming, fish out of there. I don't know, but I'll take it as it comes. All right. Hey, Corey, my wife and I just placed an order for some plants and the nano pump. I can't wait for everything to get here. Well, being Sunday right now, it'll probably be packed in the next couple of hours. It'll probably ship out tomorrow morning, UPS will pick it up today, but actually start moving in airplanes probably tomorrow. And hopefully it arrives soon. I don't know where you live. Will I ever do anything with MD fish tanks? I love escaping. I did send an email. We were trying to set something up when we were going to do the UK thing, and he said, yeah, just let me know when. So the door seems to be open, and I think, I don't watch his channel enough to know all of escapes. I mean, I'm subscribed to him, but I don't find time to watch stuff. But I think for me to wander in, I think he's got enough cool stuff going on that I would find stuff that I enjoy. So, and usually if I enjoy it, it comes across well on video. So yeah, I like to see most things, honestly. It's hard. I'm hard pressed to not, if I'm already there, think of it this way. if you're within 10 minutes of something you know should be fairly cool, why wouldn't you go see it, right? And so I'm of that opinion. Like, no matter what, there's always something cool to see in an aquarium or nature for me. I would like to join, but still no 6-month membership here. Do you know when that'll happen? I don't, Dave. I don't know if it's limited by state or by country, or I'm not sure. And YouTube is a slow beast that kind of moves, and I'm not sure when features completely roll out. All I can say is in my opinion, YouTube is an amazing platform because it affords us to do all of this. Now, you guys watch ads and you're pitching in. You have memberships you're pitching in. That brings money. It buys this camera that you're watching on. It buys this microphone. And I try not to dwell on it, but people probably don't know that this microphone is $400. They don't know that the camera and the lens you're seeing this on right now is about $5,000. And it doesn't have to be that way. You can use lesser equipment, but I try to improve as much as I can, and I try to make it, like yesterday, you might be like, hey, that was actually pretty good audio and video, and it was, and that's only about $200 worth of stuff that we send to each person that's going to be doing it. But, there's, we've got extra packs for when Zenno's on, so I had 2 $400 microphones, and there's extra things and all of that. And YouTube, because it pays us, allows us to do these things. It allows us to pay speakers, and you guys are helping with that too. And so I'm very patient with YouTube because I do believe it's in their best interest to offer those memberships to you at a cheaper rate long term. And I do think they're reasonably working on it. If anyone's following like Twitch and other platforms, there are platforms that just straight up don't care. They just don't care. And so there's that. But I do believe that on a certain level, YouTube actually does care. And I do believe, there's a lot of, I'm going to say smaller influencers, myself included at the beginning, that I probably would have never gained the traction without a platform kind of believing in you and putting your stuff out there. And, I honestly don't think if I had tried to do the exact same thing I do on YouTube, on Facebook, would I have gotten to this level? I don't think so. Maybe. I can't know that because I didn't put the same resources in, but I do believe that it's the best platform. I think it's the healthiest platform. It's not perfect. I think it's the healthiest platform that's out there. Am I going to the library convention in September? I haven't committed to anything yet. That's in October though. I'm 99% sure the convention's in September or in October. I'll have to look that up, but I haven't committed to it yet. There's like 3 events in October that are still on the table. I think September there's a Keystone Clash. I'm not sure I'm going to that. We're a platinum sponsor of it, but I'm not sure I'm going to it yet. Not sure what I'm doing. I think might be trying a local event. I'm not sure. We're still planning. But no, so my plan is to put on the events calendar on that membership, and I'll show you where. Once we book things, our plan is to utilize our club calendar. So right here, my cursor going right here, you can see events under club. My plan is, so if I was going to be at the library convention, you would see that in October, whatever days that would be like, oh, might have a picture of the convention, have the details. I'll also let you know I'm going to be there. And then we're also, if it's set up correctly at the bottom, yeah, sorry. At the bottom, it shows past events now because we've now had an event, right? And so this over time will become a library for you guys to go, well, what events have happened? Like, oh, there's the ACA that he went to. Oh, here's Aquashella. And then you can go, hey, they probably are doing that this year, right? So we're trying to build a back catalog of events that maybe we've done and that would be going forward. So, but yes, we plan to use this whole, so member or not, like you don't have to be a member to show up to our in-person events, but you might get some extra perks. We might be able to leverage something like that. So yeah, I think that's funny. It says do not touch, and he's holding the bird. You guys probably can't see the do not touch part right there. All right, we got about 5 minutes left. Sarah Kempa became a member. Well, thanks for joining, Sarah. I know you love live and plants, but there's a lot of us cichlid nerds that watch as well. I know this. I also know that I can't possibly please everybody. So it makes sense, right? It makes sense that, oh, that's a great, like, so one of the things in Germany that I plan to go visit with Chris Lukup, the company he works for, they have a facility because they sell fish, right? And they have 3,000 cichlid tanks of wholesale fish. I plan to film that. I plan to take Jimmy, I plan to take a few days and really build out that video. Now, is that my main passion? No. Do I think it'll be very cool? Yes. Do I like cichlids? Yes. Is it beneficial for my business? Not as much, but I will utilize that. But I probably won't make videos day in, day out about different Mbuna setups, different Tanganyika setups, different Lake Malawi setups. Just like I'm not going to make a video probably on Madagascar cichlids, right? Have I kept all these things? Yes. Have I bred most of these things? Yes. But at the end of the day, it does have to loosely tie back into the overall business because the business is going to pay the flights and do all this stuff and it has to net out. And yes, I realize you guys are members and all of that. And so there's like what we do, and then there's like what is around that I can also cover. And then there's like, okay, that's getting a little too far off track. And we do plan to have some cichlid speakers. Won't be a ton of them. It won't be all the time, but we're trying to cover lots of topics and build, like the club thing is mostly like a library. Oh, I'd like to check out a book on African cichlids. Oh, I'd like to check out a book on killifish. I'd like to check out on betta breeding. I'd like to check out, you know, and so you can get some cursory research, but then you might have to transition to, oh, you're into cichlids? How about Tazawa's tanks? How about Ben Ochart? How about, what was his name? He used to do cichlids all the time. I had saltwater. I can't remember his name. But, you know, there are people that have come and gone, and like Steve Poland used to do a lot of cichlid stuff. There, you know, KG Tropicals does some cichlid stuff. I think each person can kind of specialize their own stuff, but there's still a loose category of all aquatics and nature. I was wondering if we could do a live stream sometime showing member setups, something we can submit photos ahead of time and then do a video where the setups get shared and reacted to. Maybe. I don't like reacting to stuff because we've done that kind of stuff in the past and people get upset if they don't get the right reaction, right? So some people can be critical of it. If I don't love it enough, they feel like, oh, Corey doesn't like my stuff. Could there be a way in which we could do some of that? Yes, there is. And I've thought about it, and maybe that we talked about earlier in the stream, like maybe that could be the intermission we're looking for. Like, hey, it's a club member's tank, they film their thing. We kind of did that, I believe, on the forum. Let me dig for it real quick. Let me see if I can find it in a fast way here, because we only have a few minutes left. Would have been in this one. Let's see if I can find it. I think it was in our photos and videos. For NERM week, this like last week or so, we've had yeah, so here we go. I think this encompasses it. Let me try and pull it up here. So I think, you know, this is forum members and not specifically, there's a lot of people that are on the forum are also a member, but there are a lot of, well, not a lot, but you know, this is one way to do it where you can kind of post your own stuff up on the forum and other people are watching it, we're checking it out, and you know, some people get shy and don't want to talk, and there's, you know, as much as, you know, you want to do or don't want to do, you know, and you know, you get to meet this person, right? And so I think what I really want to see happen is I like community building. I enjoy it. I like getting to know people, right? And I haven't watched all these videos yet. I'm waiting for like, hey, I'm waiting for a meeting. Great, I could watch half of this, right? And so I'm not nearly as plugged in as you could be. Like you could be more plugged in than me at the moment. But I'm really big into community building. And one of the problems I'm trying to solve right now is we do an in-person event, right? And the thing I always have a problem with is like, you go, hey, my name is James Corbin. And I go, hey, James Corbin, or your name is Sleeper Aquatics. And I go, or you tell me your name is James Corbin, but I don't know that you're Sleeper Aquatics online. And so I can't really put a face to the name, right? But if we had member name tags, right, or at least YouTube name tags where you put who you are, and what I'm trying, one of our plans that 99% chance won't work, but what I'm trying to figure out is if we were in an event and you go, hey, I'm Sleeper Aquatics, and I don't know if you're a member because I can't see it in this little thing, but and you go, look, I'm a member on your phone. We see that, right? And we go, oh, cool. And then we have a membership card printer. We print that card, and you could like put it into like a little badge thing, and it would say Sleeper Aquatics. So not only would people know who you were, maybe it could say how long you've been a member, like that'd be kind of cool. And then also we want it so that there's a barcode on there and a centralized database, so that maybe you could take it to Twin City Guppies, or you could take it to the next Aquashella event and you go, hey, look, I've got a membership card. I believe there's a deal worked out here that I get early access, or I get $1 off my entrance fee. And then they can actually scan it and they could look it up on our website and go, yes, you're a current member. Here's your discount, or whatever it is. And maybe we work with other local stores and all of that. But we're trying to build this massive big network that would be worldwide, because I instantly know, like, but I live in Australia. Like, don't worry, we're trying to come there. We're trying to come to the UK. We're trying to go to all these places. And so we would want it like, oh, how do we get the machine there? How do we print them off? And we want it so that, yeah, you got this card, you were in an event, now you come to our local store, because maybe you live in Minnesota, but eventually you fly out 3 years later and you stop by the Aquarium Co-op and you want to get your discount. That would be a way to do it. Right? And so we're working on all these things and trying to do it. And but yes, being on the forum, posting, there's so many. If I go back to the forum here, this happens on a daily basis, right? There's so many journals and photos and just, like here's Rogue Aquariums, right? I'm just gonna click on that, and you can kind of see what's going on here, and you see the different setups, and you can ask questions and you talk about it, and here's like a desk setup. There's so many things going on with so many people. And I think this is honestly like a better format than what I can provide in a digital thing. Or not a digital thing, but in a like a video react type of environment, right? And you can see like not your average fish room journal build, right? And so this person like bought a house or whatever, and this is the beginnings. Right? And you can kind of follow along, and I'm sure there's going to be more pictures at some point, and there's ideas, and so I warn you, this might be slow because the person's got to move and they got to do stuff, and it looks like they got baby chicks, and there's an aquarium, and you get to learn about real life scenarios, and I really do enjoy kind of just pulling back the curtain and peeking in and seeing what people are doing. And so you got Journey of My Resurrected Florida Fish Room. Like, that's probably different, right? So he's working with some angels and some starlight bristlenose. This is a very cool bristlenose, right? And these are, what, pink convicts? Or no, is it, let's see here, snow white parrots. So short body white comets. So you can see a lot of this stuff. And I think this, there is definitely something to, on a video, I get a notification, I do all that, and then there's also this like, but you could be part of the community, and you can kind of do a little bit of work to seek out. He will seek out. You can seek out information and what you want to be doing. Yeah, like Rudy says, I would love for you to criticize my tank. Please. I don't enjoy doing that. I don't enjoy criticizing people. That it doesn't make me feel good, right? So think about it from my perspective. You show me your tank and I think it's terrible. We already established, my brain goes, how did I fail at education? Why don't the plans look great? What can I do better as a presenter and a business person to help this person, right? And one of it could be like, well, you could critique it, right? But I don't come away going, I feel so good for tearing people apart. I might feel good, but like, wow, everyone's doing really cool stuff. I like looking at that, right? But I don't enjoy that aspect of it. And if I don't enjoy it, I don't know, like I'm not going to wake up and go, yeah, I hope I get to tear some people apart today. That sounds fun. That's not fun for me. And so I try to avoid all the things I don't like doing, whether it's in business, whether it's at home. You know, there's stuff you have to do you don't like doing, you know. But yeah. I know we have a million things going on, but any ideas and hints what the 36-month member badge might be? Just realized I'll be at 36 months in December. Well, Don, I had a meeting with YouTube, and it won't be anything until they implement it. It's not that we haven't thought of what it's going to be. I haven't yet, but I would. There does not even exist. Like, we're one of the first creators to get memberships. We're one of the first memberships that have actually kept people on for 36 months. Most people drop out. They're like, oh, well, they can't. You know, they're studying us because how are people still engaging with you guys? You know, you got to kind of think of it. Staying with something for 3 years is not human nature. In a club, in a paying club, your average person drops out. Like even in the fish hobby, is about 2 years. So we work really hard on how can we keep it going, how can we make it better, and all of that. And so we're a very small use for them to implement that. But I also tell them, you know, how do you expect a creator like me and others to actually build this thing if you won't give us the tools? And so hopefully, I'm hoping that they take that advice and go, oh yeah, if you build it, they will come type of thing, instead of like, well, there's not enough people at this level, and so it doesn't make sense to put resources into it. That's the same mentality of like, well, there's not enough people that don't like getting stickers, so I'm not going to fix the problem. I look at it and going, is there a problem here, and should we solve this problem? If the answer is yes, we should solve it and get it done. Will Murphy get a new aquarium soon? I don't know. It all depends if we can get a larger space. If we can get a larger space, like I was talking with Zenzo when we were there, the problem is physically fitting an aquarium to where Murphy is right now. A bigger aquarium can get there, but getting it there, right? We'd have to do construction, take down walls, close down the store. But if we can get the space next door to us, we could have a much larger aquarium put in and then build the rest out. And so the aquarium, water parameters are fine. Does every fish want a bigger tank? Yes. Is it, you know, is it pressing right now? Not super pressing, but we're definitely trying to work that angle. You know, I won't say what we've been trying to do, because that always leads to more questions and more things, but is it on my radar? It definitely is on my radar. But we can only do so many things. So yeah, it's we do what we can. That's what I can say. Only takes 15 minutes to implement another 3-year emoji. That might be true. I don't know. You know, I don't know if it actually is, or does it take, you know, and this is my coding brain, because I've done programming and that kind of stuff, and I work with developers. But something that seems like, oh, we implement, it takes 15 minutes. What if they have to resubmit, right? What if they have to resubmit to Apple and Android? What if they have to resubmit to the Roku app? What if they have to do all of these things? What if it's a chain reaction to show another thing? Maybe it might not be, but it could, there are problems that are seemingly simple that actually, like, no, it causes a chain reaction of like a billion things. And I don't know that. They haven't told me anything. It might be literally like, well, we just have to click the button. That's all we have to do. Like, that's the only thing stopping us. That could be. I have no idea. But I also do know that some problems are very complex. Like Randy runs this to me all the time. Like, we can do that, but here's just all the things I can think of right off the bat that would go wrong. You know, and that's where we spend a lot of meetings scoping. Okay, well, when people are on YouTube and they need to come onto our website, what are all the things that could go wrong? Well, is it going to work in this browser, this browser, this browser? What about they have 2 different emails? What about this? What about this? What about that? What about this? And so you build all these scenarios on how you think it could break. And then you build out, well, how are we going to solve all of these so that it hopefully is a user stress-free environment so that everyone will adopt it the way they want to. And maybe they've got that same use case going of like they've already done the research, they know there's problem X, Y, and Z, and until they can solve this, they can't dedicate resources. I have no idea. I mean, they're obviously a giant company. They can do anything they want. And that's why I do ask them, like, hey, we bump this up into the let's get this going a little sooner zone. All right, I'm gonna call it now. Any chance of random live streams on the other channel soon? At the moment, I'm pressed for time. I usually do that if I have some extra time. Yeah, it probably not, is what I would say. The other one, I started using your test strips. I'm finding that the pH consistently reads low. Could this be due to the fact that my water is harder than average? There is some things that come into play with reagents like that, but I haven't been able to replicate the problems that we've had. We've had some problems, but they're here and there, and like I need to do some updates on the forum. We couldn't replicate an ammonia test strip problem. I'm not able to replicate a pH problem that AJE is having. That's his tag on YouTube here, and yeah, it's really hard when you can't replicate it. When you can replicate a problem, you now can start trying to test solutions. But when you can't replicate, you can't replicate the problem. I can't work on the solution for it. And we've got the labs working on it. We've got this working on it, but I don't have a tangible answer yet. And so if it's just a little bit low, I would side with the you're looking for a range. But I have tested, and I do have some of that stuff on the forum where we're testing pH and hardness and different water parameters and showing you scientific grade kits and that kind of stuff, and it is working. However, there could be stuff in your waterways that are, I don't want to say contaminating, but throwing results off or something. And we asked the lab, what could affect this? What stuff could we be looking for? Can we ask them to look at their water? And I think over time, a product like this evolves, right? So, okay, we're 5 years into it. We know that if you have X, Y, and Z crazy thing going on with your water, it'll lead to this, right? But, there's a lot of people it works great for. It works great for me. Our water structure and a lot of people, and there's some that are like, I'm getting this weird result. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not sure why yet. And we were actively, we had some people send us a Dr. Tim's ammonia kit. It is different. The packaging is different than the one we have. But when we test it, it's the same in our water and it reads correctly. But in that person's water, it does not read correctly. So we've now been able to isolate it to something in this gentleman's water is causing the test to not read accurate. So the next thing we might have to request a water sample, or, and we're working with the lab going, well, what could be the differences? What would cause a difference here? Assuming that they're following the directions correctly and all of that. And we don't have the answer yet, but we are working on it. We have meetings on it. Where are we? Where, did we get this sent to the lab? Did we get that sent to a different lab? Are we getting individual, or non-biased testing done? All that stuff. So we're working on it, and it's test strips and test kits are one of those things it's like meds and like heaters, and when they don't work, you guys are so bad, you made a crappy product, and it's like, well, it is difficult to design something to work for everyone perfectly. And I'm not saying we're stopping, because we're working on making it better and better and better as much as we can. But you can only test what you can test. And if you can't replicate a problem, it is nearly impossible to find the answer to a problem. If you can't make it happen again, oof. All right. So I will see you guys next Sunday. I'm going to go spend time with my family, my wife, and my dogs, and relax a little bit. That's my goal. Maybe get some lunch. I had a little bit of guacamole and chips for breakfast, but I am hungry. So thank you guys for hanging out. Thanks for everyone who became a member. Thanks for all the super chats. Thanks for the subscribers. Maybe if you're not a subscriber yet, hit that subscribe button today so that when we do this again, and I don't know that it will necessarily be next week, right? But when we do the next only subscriber only thing, maybe we will do that. If you're a member, give feedback. Was this okay? Do you prefer it without the subscribers joining in, or don't you? We stayed under 1,000 people. I think the title I did, which was conducive to that, like a live reaction to something people didn't get to see. I understand why they wouldn't show up. But I'm interested to see, the members' thoughts and that kind of stuff about sharing it with the subscribers and how that went. So have a great day. Chevy Fish, haven't seen you in a while. Must be because you're a subscriber, not a member, so I didn't see your name, but good to see you. And I'm gonna hit the done button real soon here if I can find the right page. become a member, watch that talk, and leave comments. Leave comments, let us know what you thought, and we'll keep trying to get better. Have a great one.